The observation chamber aboard the Eternal Accord was filled with delegates from across the galaxy. They had come to watch a conquest. It was supposed to be simple. It was supposed to be quick. The Zerathi Dominion had done this 1,000 times before, and the Galactic Council had approved their petition without any real discussion. Ambassador Kethvoran stood at the center of the chamber, his 4 eyes fixed on the massive display screen that showed a small blue planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Earth, the humans called it. Sol 3 inches, the Galactic Registry. A backwater world at the edge of an unremarkable spiral arm, home to a species that had only recently learned to leave their own atmosphere. The conquest should take no more than 2 planetary rotations, Kethvoran announced to the assembled delegates. His voice was calm and certain. He had reviewed the files himself. The humans were weak. They had soft skin and no natural weapons. They lived for less than 100 years. They had no unified government, no energy shields, and no knowledge of faster-than-light travel. By every measure in the Galactic Index of Sentient Development, they were a Category 2 civilization. Primitive, pre-contact, easy. The Zerathi High Commander, a massive insectoid warrior named Zelvotrix, had assured the Council that his forces would be gentle. The humans would make good workers once they were properly trained. Their planet had useful resources. There was no need for excessive violence. The delegates settled into their seats. Some of them had brought refreshments. This was entertainment for them. They had seen dozens of conquests before. The pattern was always the same. The ships would appear. The ultimatum would be broadcast. The primitive species would panic, then surrender, then accept their new place in the galactic order. It was almost boring at this point. On the screen, the Zerathi dreadnoughts descended through Earth's atmosphere. There were 12 of them, each one larger than any structure the humans had ever built. They positioned themselves above the major population centers: New York, Beijing, Moscow, London, Tokyo, Sao Paulo. The ships hung in the sky like dark metal mountains, blocking out the sun. Then the broadcast began. People of Earth, the message said in every human language, you are now subjects of the Zerathi Dominion. Your planet and its resources belong to us. Your lives belong to us. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated with mercy. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have 12 hours to comply. Kethvoran nodded with satisfaction. The message was standard. The 12-hour window was generous. Most species surrendered within the first hour. The humans would be no different. But 1 hour passed. Then 2. Then 6. No surrender came. The delegates in the observation chamber began to murmur. This was unusual. The humans had no fleet to fight back with. They had no allies coming to save them. Their most powerful weapons were primitive nuclear devices that could not even scratch the hull of a Zerathi ship. What were they waiting for? Kethvoran adjusted the display to show ground-level footage from the human cities. What he saw made him pause. The humans were not panicking. They were not running. They were not hiding in their homes and waiting for the end. They were moving. In every city, on every continent, the humans were doing something the Council had never seen from a conquered species. They were organizing. Military vehicles rolled through the streets. Soldiers took up positions on rooftops. Civilians who should have been fleeing were instead carrying supplies and weapons to defensive locations. Old men and young women stood side by side, loading ammunition into weapons that looked laughably primitive. What are they doing? Asked a delegate from the Velian Consortium. Her voice was confused, not concerned. Do they not understand the situation? They understand, Kethvoran said slowly. They simply do not accept it. The 12 hours ended. No surrender came. High Commander Zelvotrix gave the order to begin ground operations. The Zerathi dropships descended from the dreadnoughts, carrying thousands of warriors in gleaming chitin armor. They were the most feared soldiers in the galaxy. They had conquered 100 worlds. They expected this one to fall within hours. The first wave landed in Central Park in New York City. The Zerathi warriors emerged from their ships with weapons raised, ready to crush any resistance. They were met by the sound of gunfire. The bullets bounced off their armor, just as expected. The Zerathi did not even slow down. They marched forward, confident and unstoppable. Then something unexpected happened. A human vehicle came speeding toward them. It was a simple truck, the kind used to carry goods from one place to another. The Zerathi did not see it as a threat. Why would they? It was just a primitive machine. The truck exploded. The blast killed 12 Zerathi warriors instantly. Their armor, designed to stop energy weapons and projectiles, could not handle the raw force of the explosion. The remaining warriors scattered, confused. This was not in their training. Conquered species did not attack. They cowered. They begged. They surrendered. The humans did none of these things. In the observation chamber, the delegates had stopped eating their refreshments. The murmurs had grown louder. Kethvaran was rapidly pulling up files from the Galactic database, searching for any information that might explain what he was seeing. "Ambassador," said a young aide, her voice trembling. "The humans are fighting in every city. They are not stopping." "They will stop," Kethvaran said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "They must stop. They cannot win." On the screen, the footage showed scenes that the Council had never witnessed before. In Moscow, human soldiers were dragging Zerathi warriors from their vehicles and killing them with hand-to-hand combat. In Tokyo, drones that the humans had built for entertainment were now being used to drop explosives on Zerathi positions. In Sao Paulo, a group of civilians had captured a Zerathi communication device and were broadcasting false orders to the enemy forces. The humans were adapting. They were learning. They were fighting back with everything they had. 36 hours after the invasion began, High Commander Zelvotrix sent a message to the Council. His voice was strained. His confidence was gone. "We require reinforcements," he said. "The humans are not what we expected." Kethvaran stared at the message for a long moment. In 12,000 years of Zerathi conquest, they had never requested reinforcements against a Category 2 species. Never. He turned back to the display screen, where the blue planet continued to spin in the darkness. Somewhere down there, the fragile bipeds, with no natural weapons and short lifespans, were teaching the galaxy a lesson that would never be forgotten. Earth was not surrendering. Earth was fighting. And for the first time in galactic history, the outcome of a Zerathi conquest was uncertain. The delegates in the observation chamber were no longer watching for entertainment. They were watching with fear, because if the humans could resist the Zerathi, then everything the Council believed about primitive species was wrong, and that meant everything they believed about the galaxy might be wrong too. The invasion was only beginning. But already, the universe was changing. 1 week had passed since the Zerathi Dominion began their conquest of Earth. In the observation chamber of the Eternal Accord, the seats that had been half empty on the first day were now completely full. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy had come to watch what was happening on the small blue planet. They came because they could not believe the reports. They had to see for themselves. High Commander Zelvotrix stood on the bridge of his command ship, staring at the tactical display with all 4 of his compound eyes. The display showed red marks where his forces held territory, and blue marks where the humans controlled the ground. When the invasion started, the display had been almost entirely red. Now, the colors were mixed together like a disease spreading across the map. "Explain this to me," Zelvotrix said to his tactical officer. His voice was quiet, which meant he was very angry. "We have superior technology. We have superior numbers. We have superior training. How are we losing ground to creatures who still use chemical propellant weapons?" The tactical officer did not have a good answer. No one did. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Kethvaran was reviewing the files he had pulled from the database. He had been reading for 3 days without sleep. His 4 eyes were tired and red, but he could not stop, because the more he read about humanity, the more he understood how badly the Council had miscalculated. The humans were not like other species. They had not developed in a safe environment. Their planet was a death trap. The climate changed without warning. Predators hunted them from every direction. Diseases killed them by the millions. And when nature was not trying to kill them, they killed each other. War after war after war, stretching back to the very beginning of their recorded history. They have been fighting for their survival since they first learned to walk upright, Kethvaran said to the assembled delegates. His voice was heavy with shock. They have never known peace. Not truly. Every generation has faced some threat that should have destroyed them, and every generation has survived. On the display screen, footage from Earth told the story better than any report could. In a small town in Texas, a group of farmers had discovered something important. The Zerathi armor was designed to deflect energy weapons and stop small projectiles, but it was not designed to handle the kinetic force of large-caliber hunting rifles. The farmers had started with deer rifles. Within 3 days, they had organized a militia that was ambushing Zerathi patrols with devastating effectiveness. In Mumbai, a software engineer who had never touched a weapon in her life had figured out how to hack into the Zerathi communication network. She was broadcasting false orders, sending enemy units into traps, and disrupting their supply lines. She worked from a basement with a laptop and a cup of cold coffee. She had not slept in 4 days. She did not care. In Berlin, a retired schoolteacher named Klaus had organized his entire neighborhood into a resistance cell. They made bombs from household chemicals. They built traps from construction materials. They moved through the sewers like ghosts, striking Zerathi positions and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Klaus was 73 years old. He walked with a limp from an old injury. He had killed 11 Zerathi warriors in the past week. The delegates watched these scenes with growing unease. They had expected the humans to fight at first. All species fought when they were cornered, but they had expected the resistance to fade as the reality of the situation became clear. The humans had no chance of winning. Their technology was too primitive. Their numbers were too small. Logic said they should surrender and accept their fate, but the humans did not seem to care about logic. "They are not fighting to win," said Elder Counselor Yithmari. She was the oldest member of the council, a being of crystalline light who had watched civilizations rise and fall for 10,000 years. She rarely spoke. When she did, everyone listened. They are fighting because they do not know how to stop. Violence is not a tool for them. It is a reflex, a survival instinct bred into their very genes. Kethvoran nodded slowly. He had reached the same conclusion. The humans had evolved something that no other species in the galaxy possessed in such measure. They called it spite. The refusal to give up even when giving up was the logical choice. The willingness to hurt themselves as long as they could hurt their enemy more. On the command ship, High Commander Zel Votrix was learning this lesson the hard way. His forces had captured a human soldier during a raid. The soldier was wounded and could not escape. The Zerathi medics tried to extract information from him about human defenses and strategies. They used their standard interrogation techniques, methods that had broken the will of 1,000 species before. The human laughed at them. "You think this is pain?" he said through broken teeth. "I played football in high school. I have felt worse." When it became clear that the interrogation was failing, the Zerathi decided to extract the information directly from the human's body. They would scan his brain and download his memories. It was invasive, but effective. The human figured out what they were planning. He did not try to escape. He could not escape. Instead, he found a sharp piece of metal from a broken instrument panel. And before the Zerathi could stop him, he used it to end his own life. He died with a smile on his face. Zel Votrix stared at the body for a long time. In his entire career, he had never seen anything like it. A soldier choosing death over capture was not unusual, but choosing death just to deny the enemy information? With a smile? What kind of species produced warriors like this? The answer came from the observation chamber, where Kethvoran had finally finished his research. "The humans have a concept they call total war," the ambassador explained to the council. "It means that when they fight, they do not just use their military. They use everything. Their factories, their scientists, their civilians, their children. Every resource they have is directed toward victory. They invented this concept during a conflict called World War II, just 80 years ago. In that war, they killed over 70 million of their own kind." The chamber was silent. "They have weapons that can destroy their entire planet," Kethvoran continued. "They built these weapons during a period they called the Cold War. For 40 years, they lived with the knowledge that at any moment, their civilization could be erased. And they did not destroy the weapons. They kept them. They pointed them at each other. They lived with the fear every single day." A delegate from the Vortian Collective raised a tentacle. "Why would any species do such a thing?" Kethvoran shook his head. "Because they would rather risk everything than surrender their freedom. That is who they are. That is what they are. And we sent the Zerathi to conquer them." On Earth, the Zerathi ground forces were beginning to understand what they were facing. They had expected a quick victory. Instead, they had found themselves trapped in a nightmare. The humans attacked at all hours. They used tactics that no civilized species would consider. They turned their own cities into death traps, preferring to destroy everything rather than let it fall into enemy hands. And every day, more humans joined the fight. Old and young, rich and poor. People who had hated each other for generations now stood together against the common enemy. They had a saying for it. We can go back to killing each other after. The Zirathi were not conquering Earth. They were being consumed by it, and the galaxy was watching. 2 weeks into the invasion, the Galactic Council called an emergency session. This had happened only 3 times in the past 1,000 years. The first was when the Void Plague threatened to wipe out half the galaxy. The second was when the eternal war between the Keth and the Molari finally ended. The third was now. The observation chamber was no longer large enough to hold all the delegates who wanted to watch. They had moved to the Grand Assembly Hall, the largest space on the Eternal Accord. Every seat was filled. Beings of every shape and size crowded together, their eyes fixed on the massive display that dominated the front wall. On the screen, Earth burned. But it was not burning the way conquered planets usually burned. It was burning with defiance. Ambassador Keth Voran stood at the podium, his 4 eyes heavy with exhaustion. He had not slept in days. None of them had. The situation on Earth had become impossible to ignore. The Zarathi Dominion has suffered 43% casualties, he announced. The number hung in the air like poison. They control 3 major cities and approximately 12% of the planet's surface. At the current rate of attrition, they will run out of soldiers before they finish the conquest. The assembly erupted in noise. 43% casualties against a Category 2 species. It was unthinkable. It was impossible. And yet, it was happening. High Commander Zel Votrix appeared on the screen, broadcasting from his command ship. He looked different than he had 2 weeks ago. His chitin armor was cracked in several places. His compound eyes had lost their confident gleam. When he spoke, his voice was tired. The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered, he said. They do not have a central command structure that we can destroy. They do not have a single leader who can order a surrender. Every human is a soldier. Every home is a fortress. Every street is a battlefield. He paused. And, for a moment, something like fear crossed his alien face. We killed their soldiers, and their civilians picked up the weapons. We destroyed their military bases, and they built new ones in schools and hospitals. We cut off their communications, and they used mirrors and fires to send messages like their ancestors did thousands of years ago. They adapt faster than we can respond. They learn faster than we can teach. They are not fighting a war. They are evolving in real time to become better at killing us. The assembly was silent. No one knew what to say. On Earth, the humans were doing exactly what Zel Votrix had described. In every corner of the planet, they were transforming themselves into something the galaxy had never seen before. In China, factory workers who had spent their lives making toys and electronics were now producing weapons. They worked in shifts around the clock, sleeping on the factory floors, eating whatever they could find. The production lines that had once made smartphones now made explosives. The engineers who had designed children's games now designed traps for alien soldiers. In Australia, farmers and ranchers had formed mobile strike forces. They knew the land better than any map could show. They used this knowledge to ambush Zarathi patrols, disappear into the wilderness, and strike again from a different direction. The Zarathi sent drones to find them. The Australians shot the drones down and used the parts to build better weapons. In Nigeria, a young woman named Adaeze had organized a network of resistance cells across the entire continent. She was 24 years old. Before the invasion, she had been a university student studying medicine. Now she commanded thousands of fighters through a system of coded radio messages and trusted messengers. The Zarathi had put a bounty on her head. She wore it as a badge of honor. But the thing that disturbed the council most was not the fighting. It was the unity. The humans had been a divided species. They had hundreds of countries, thousands of languages, millions of reasons to hate each other. They had fought wars over religion, over resources, over ideas, over nothing at all. The galactic databases were full of records of human conflicts stretching back thousands of years. And yet, the moment the Zarathi arrived, all of that stopped. Countries that had been enemies for centuries were now sharing weapons and intelligence. Religious groups that had killed each other for generations now prayed together for victory. Political factions that had spent years tearing each other apart now worked side by side in the resistance. The humans had a phrase for it that the translators struggled to convey. We are all in this together. Elder Counselor Thmari watched the footage with ancient, knowing eyes. She had seen many species face extinction. Most of them fell apart at the end, turning on each other in their final moments. The humans were doing the opposite. They were coming together. "This is what we failed to understand," she said, her crystalline voice filling the assembly hall. "We judged them by their divisions. We thought their conflicts made them weak, but their conflicts made them strong. They have been training for this moment for their entire existence. Every war they fought against each other was practice. Every enemy they defeated taught them something new. They are not a young species learning to fight. They are an ancient species that has never stopped fighting." On the screen, new footage appeared. It showed a human general named Marcus Thompson, broadcasting from a hidden bunker somewhere in North America. His face was hard and tired. His uniform was dirty, but his eyes burned with something that made even the Zarathi commanders look away. "To the beings watching from the stars," Thompson said, looking directly at the camera, "we know you are there. We know you are watching. Let me tell you something about humanity." He leaned forward. "We have survived ice ages that covered our planet in frozen death. We have survived plagues that killed half our population. We have survived famines, floods, earthquakes, and wars that burned our cities to the ground. Every time the universe tried to kill us, we came back stronger. Every time we faced extinction, we found a way to survive." His voice dropped, becoming quiet and dangerous. "The Zarathi think they can conquer us. They think we will surrender. They think we will give up." He smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "They have made a mistake, because we are humanity, and we do not know how to quit. We do not know how to surrender. We do not know how to die." He stood up, and his voice rose to a shout. "So come and take our planet if you can. Come and try to break us. We will fight you in the cities. We will fight you in the fields. We will fight you in the mountains and the deserts and the forests. We will fight you until every last one of us is dead, and even then, our ghosts will haunt you. Our children will remember, and someday, they will find you among the stars, and they will make you pay." The broadcast ended. The assembly hall was silent. Ambassador Keth Varan looked at the faces of his fellow delegates. He saw fear. He saw shock. He saw the beginning of a terrible understanding. The humans were not a Category 2 species. They had never been a Category 2 species. The Council had looked at their technology and made assumptions. They had ignored the most important factor of all. The humans were survivors. They had clawed their way to the top of a hostile planet through sheer determination and endless violence. They had built civilizations and torn them down and built them again. They had faced every horror the universe could throw at them and refused to break. And now they were awake. Now they knew they were not alone in the universe. Now they had an enemy that was not themselves. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake, and it was too late to take it back. On Earth, the humans kept fighting. They did not know that the galaxy was watching. They did not care. They only knew one thing. Their home was under attack, and they would defend it until their last breath. That was who they were. That was what they had always been. And the universe was about to learn what that meant. Day 19 of the invasion began with a message that no one in the galaxy expected to hear. High Commander Zel Votrix, Supreme Leader of the Zarathi Invasion Force, warrior who had conquered 37 worlds, soldier who had never known defeat, appeared on every communication channel in the Galactic Council network. His chitin armor was broken and stained with blood. His compound eyes were dull with exhaustion. His voice, once strong and commanding, now trembled with something that sounded almost like fear. "I am requesting terms," he said. The Grand Assembly Hall fell into shocked silence. Delegates who had been speaking stopped mid-sentence. Beings who had been moving froze in place. For a long moment, no one could believe what they had heard. The Zarathi Dominion did not request terms. In 12,000 years of conquest, they had never asked for mercy from any species. They were the conquerors, not the conquered. They dictated terms. They did not receive them. And yet, here was their greatest commander, asking for a way out. 60% of my ground forces are dead or wounded," Zel Votrix continued. His voice was flat and empty, like a machine reading a report. "My remaining troops are exhausted. Their morale is broken. They fear the humans more than they fear me. I cannot ask them to continue." He looked directly at the camera, and in his alien eyes, there was something that looked like respect. "We came to conquer a primitive species. We found something else entirely. The humans are not primitives. They are not weak. They are monsters wearing the skin of gentle creatures, and I will not sacrifice more of my soldiers to learn that lesson again." The message ended. The assembly hall exploded in chaos. Ambassador Keth Voran tried to restore order, but it was impossible. Delegates shouted at each other. Some demanded that the Zerathi continue the fight. Others insisted that the invasion be abandoned immediately. A few simply sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what had happened. In the middle of the chaos, Elder Counselor Withmari rose from her seat. Her crystalline form glowed with ancient light. When she spoke, her voice cut through the noise like a blade. Silence. The hall went quiet. "Let me tell you what has happened," she said. "Let me tell you what we have witnessed. Because I do not think any of you truly understand." She turned to face the massive display screen, which still showed images from Earth. The planet was scarred with the marks of war. Cities burned. Forests were destroyed. But the humans were still fighting. They would always be fighting. "We have spent 12,000 years building a system to classify species," Withmari said. "We measure their technology. We count their weapons. We calculate their threat level based on what they can build and what they can destroy. And for 12,000 years, this system has worked. Every species we have encountered has fit into our categories. Every conquest has followed our predictions." She turned back to the assembly. "The humans broke our system. Not because they are more advanced than we thought. Their technology is exactly as primitive as we believed. They have no energy shields. They have no faster-than-light travel. They have no weapons that can threaten our fleets." She paused, and her crystalline eyes seemed to look into the soul of every being in the hall. "They broke our system because we forgot to measure what matters most. We measured their tools. We forgot to measure their will." On the screen, footage appeared that the council had been trying to understand for days. It showed a human woman in a burning city. She was not a soldier. She wore no uniform. She carried no weapon. She was a mother, holding her child in one arm and a bottle filled with burning liquid in the other. A Zerathi warrior approached her. He was twice her size. His armor could stop bullets. He carried a weapon that could vaporize steel. The woman did not run. She did not beg. She threw the bottle at the warrior's face, and when the flames blinded him, she took his weapon and killed him with it. Then she picked up her child and walked away into the smoke. "This is what we are dealing with," Withmari said. "Not soldiers. Not warriors. Survivors. Every human on that planet is a survivor. They have been surviving since the day their species was born. They survived ice ages that should have frozen them. They survived predators that should have eaten them. They survived diseases that should have wiped them out. And they survived each other, which may have been the hardest challenge of all." She gestured at the screen. "We thought their wars made them weak. We thought their divisions made them easy to conquer. We were fools. Their wars made them strong. Their divisions forced them to adapt. Every conflict they ever fought taught them something new. They have been training for this moment for 100,000 years." Another image appeared on the screen. This one showed human resistance fighters celebrating after a successful ambush. They were laughing. They were cheering. They were hugging each other with joy. "Look at them," Withmari said. "They are not fighting because they have to. They are fighting because they want to. They are enjoying this. Not the death, not the destruction, but the challenge, the competition, the chance to prove themselves against an enemy worthy of their attention." A delegate from the Velian Consortium raised a trembling tentacle. "Are you saying they are happy about the invasion?" "I am saying they are not broken by it," Withmari replied. "I am saying they see it as an opportunity, a chance to unite, a chance to test themselves, a chance to become something greater than they were before." She turned to face Ambassador Keth Voran. "Ambassador, I move that Earth be immediately reclassified. They are not Category 2. They were never Category 2. They are Category 0. The hall went silent again. Category 0 was reserved for species that could not be conquered, could not be controlled, could not be safely engaged under any circumstances. There were only 3 Category 0 species in the entire galaxy. The thought of adding humans to that list was almost too much to comprehend. "What would reclassification mean for the invasion?" Keth Voran asked. "It would mean immediate withdrawal," Withmari said. "It would mean the Zerathi pay reparations for the damage they have caused. And it would mean that Earth is placed under permanent protection. No species may approach them without their consent. No ships may enter their system without their permission. They will be left alone until they choose to join the galactic community on their own terms. The vote was held immediately. It was not even close. Every delegate voted in favor of reclassification. Every single one. On Earth, the humans did not know what had happened. They were still fighting. They would keep fighting until the Zirathi left or until every human was dead. That was simply who they were. But in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Eternal Accord, the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat in silence, contemplating what they had learned. They had come to watch a conquest. Instead, they had witnessed a revelation. Humanity was not what they had assumed. Humanity was something else entirely. Something ancient and terrible and wonderful. Something that had been forged in the fires of a hostile world and tempered by endless conflict. Something that would never, ever give up. The Zirathi would leave Earth. They would pay their reparations, and they would spend the rest of their existence remembering the 19 days they had tried to conquer a planet full of monsters that looked like gentle creatures. The galaxy would remember too. Because the humans were awake now. They knew they were not alone. And someday, very soon, they would reach the stars. And when they did, the universe would never be the same. 1 year had passed since the Zirathi Dominion fled Earth. The scars of the invasion were still visible. Cities lay in ruins. Forests were burned. Millions of people had died defending their home. But the humans were rebuilding. They always rebuilt. It was what they did. The Galactic Council had sent 3 diplomatic missions during that year. The first 2 had been turned away at the edge of the solar system. The humans were not ready to talk. They were too busy burying their dead, healing their wounded, and preparing for the next attack that might never come. The third mission was different. This time, the Council sent their most senior diplomats, beings who had negotiated peace between empires and prevented wars that would have destroyed star systems. They came with gifts. They came with apologies. They came with respect. The humans agreed to meet them. The meeting took place on a space station that the humans had built in orbit around their moon. It was not an impressive structure by galactic standards. The metal was rough. The design was simple. The technology was primitive. But the humans had built it in 6 months, using the wreckage of Zirathi ships they had captured during the war. That fact was not lost on anyone. Ambassador Keth Voran led the council delegation. He walked through the human station with careful steps, aware that every human he passed was watching him with hard eyes. These were not the soft, frightened creatures he had expected to find a year ago. These were survivors, warriors, victors. The human ambassador was waiting for him in a conference room at the center of the station. Her name was Elena Vasquez. She was 43 years old. Before the invasion, she had been a diplomat herself, representing her country at various international organizations. During the invasion, she had fought in the streets of Buenos Aires until a Zirathi energy blast took her left arm. She did not hide her injury. Her new arm was made of metal and plastic, built from salvaged Zirathi technology. It gleamed under the lights of the conference room, a reminder of what the humans had endured and what they had overcome. Ambassador Keth Voran, she said. Her voice was calm and professional, but her eyes were cold. Welcome to humanity's first step into the stars. Please, sit down. The delegations took their places around the conference table. On one side sat the representatives of the Galactic Council, beings who had ruled the stars for thousands of years. On the other side sat the representatives of Earth, a species that had nearly been conquered and had fought back with nothing but determination and rage. The power in the room was not balanced the way it should have been. Everyone could feel it. Before we begin, Keth Voran said, I want to offer, on behalf of the Galactic Council, our deepest apologies for the invasion. We made a terrible mistake. We underestimated your species. We allowed the Zirathi to attack you without proper consideration. We are sorry. Elena nodded slightly. We accept your apology, she said. But I want to make something clear, Ambassador. We are not here because we need you. We are here because we choose to be here. We rebuilt our civilization in 1 year. We built this station in 6 months. We are already designing ships that can travel between the stars. In another decade, we will be out there with you, whether you want us or not. Keth Voran felt a chill run through his body. Other species took centuries to develop faster than light travel. Humanity was talking about doing it in a decade, and he had no doubt they would succeed. We understand. he said carefully. "We are not here to make demands. We are here to offer friendship. The galaxy is vast, and there are many threats within it. We believe that humanity would be a valuable partner in facing those threats." Elena smiled, but it was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator considering whether to eat its prey or let it go. "Let me tell you something about humanity, Ambassador," she said. "Something that your files and databases cannot capture. We are not a peaceful species. We never have been. We have spent our entire existence fighting the elements, fighting predators, fighting each other. We have built empires and torn them down. We have created wonders and destroyed them. We have loved and hated and lived and died with more passion than any species in the galaxy has ever known." She leaned forward, and her mechanical arm gleamed. "We looked at wolves and thought, I can make that my friend. We ate poisonous plants until we figured out which ones would not kill us. We split the atom, stared into the abyss of our own extinction, and kept going. We have buried 10,000 civilizations beneath our feet, and all of them were our own." The conference room was silent. Every being in it was listening. "The Zerathi made a mistake," Elena continued. "They looked at us and saw weakness. They saw our soft skin and our short lives and our primitive technology, and they thought we would be easy to conquer. They did not see what lies beneath the surface. They did not see the fire that burns in every human heart. They did not see the beast that wakes when our home is threatened." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the earth hung in the darkness of space, blue and green and beautiful, scarred, but healing, broken, but rebuilding. "We forgive the Zerathi," Elena said. "We understand why they attacked us. From the outside, we do not look dangerous. We look small and fragile and divided. We look like easy prey." She turned back to face the council delegation. "But let this serve as a notice to the rest of the galaxy. Earth is not a target. Earth is not a resource. Earth is home, and humanity will do anything, absolutely anything, to protect it. We will fight until we have nothing left. We will sacrifice everything. We will burn the stars themselves if that is what it takes. Because that is who we are. That is what we have always been." Ambassador Kethvaran looked at the human woman standing before him. He looked at her mechanical arm, built from the technology of her enemies. He looked at her eyes, filled with fire and determination, and he understood, finally and completely, what the humans were. They were not monsters. They were not angels. They were survivors. They had been forged by a hostile universe and hardened by endless conflict. They were everything that the galaxy feared and everything that it needed. They were chaos and order, creation and destruction, love and hate, all wrapped together in one impossible package. And they were coming to the stars. "We understand," Kethvaran said quietly, "and we welcome you to the galactic community. Not as subjects, not as juniors, as equals." Elena smiled, and this time it was a real smile, warm and genuine and just a little bit terrifying. "Thank you, Ambassador. We look forward to getting to know our neighbors." 1 year later, the first human starship left the solar system. It was called the Defiance. The name was not an accident. The ship carried 500 humans, all of them volunteers, scientists, engineers, soldiers, diplomats. They did not know what they would find in the vast darkness between the stars. They did not know what challenges awaited them. They only knew that they were ready, because they were human. And humans did not run from the unknown. They ran toward it. The galaxy watched them go with a mixture of fear and hope. Fear, because no one knew what humanity would become once they had access to the full resources of the universe. Hope, because no one doubted that whatever challenges lay ahead, the humans would face them without flinching. The universe was vast and cold and dangerous. It had crushed countless species throughout its long history. It had no mercy and no kindness. It simply was. But now, it had met its match. Now, it had met humanity. And humanity was not afraid. They were eager. They had spent their entire existence wondering if they were alone. Now they knew they were not. There were enemies out there, and dangers, and mysteries waiting to be solved. There were adventures waiting to be had, and humanity could not wait to begin. The stars were calling, and this time, humanity was ready to answer.